Some of you were asking how Darrel makes his light images and his dark images. So here is a quick demo of how he does that. So first of all, let's cover why he does it. And if you haven't heard him say this or you've forgotten, the reason that he uses a light image is actually to see the values, see the contour within a dark area. So as you can see in this area, where we have, you can see mostly the curve along here because we have this curve activated in our on our image. So if I turn this off, you can see that it goes pretty flat. There is some difference in the detail there, but our naked eye isn't able to see it very well. So by creating this curve where it kind of accentuates the values in the dark areas, it lets us see a lot of that detail and create that contour and curve in the dark areas. And as you know, Darrel talks a lot about the principle of being able to, one of the big things to create depth and contour in drawings is to be able to maintain contour and curve from all the way from the dark all the way to the lightest. So here's another example. Right here on the end of the nose, we can see that we have pretty good idea of seeing the contour here along like the nostril area here, even right in here. It does get a little dark in here, so it's possible we could even manipulate our curve just a little bit more. But let's play around and just see if we could potentially pull a little bit. You can see it's pretty dark in there. There aren't many pixels in there, so we probably are best to just imagine that curve, if you will, and add it as we're drawing. But this is an area where we can see a lot more detail because we've applied the curves. And if we look around the image, we can turn this layer on and off. We can see a lot of areas where even you can see down here, we can see a lot more detail into the fur because you can see a lot of the depth and the difference, the detail in the fur area here where it's really dark. So if we come up here, even I bet if we look in the eye, we can see a lot more detail in the eye, and we can see the curves and the contour, just because these are the darkest places in the image. And so by using this curve, it gives us a peek into basically what is happening in those dark areas, so that we can draw it. Now to get to the question of how do you decide what your curve should be, the answer is that it's going to vary per image, and you really need to pick a curve that is going to let you see the most range of value, as Darrel says. So basically, the most difference in dark to light in the dark areas. So that's how you pick the curve for your light version of your image. And again, if we turn this off and on, you can see we're lightening up and seeing a lot of the detail here in the dark areas. In the same way, we need to create a dark image to do the opposite, to basically to see the curve in the lightest areas. So that's what the dark image is for, is to see the curve and the contour, the range of value in the lightest areas. So you can see by turning this curve on here, we see all kinds of detail. We see more detail here around the corner of the mouth. We see some detail without it, but we see a lot more with it. We can see a lot more detail here in the lightest areas of the fur, areas that might almost just start to be hard for the naked eye to differentiate, become a lot clearer. And obviously we don't draw them with that much contrast, but it does give us a guide to be able to see and see what's happening. You can see right in here, we can see exactly where the apex of these highlights are in the fur right above here on this eyebrow. So anyways, another one is even at the end of the nose here. You can see there's a lot a lot more detail that we see right through here because the curve is showing us exactly where to pinpoint something. And also remember that whenever you know exactly where the lightest point is, and so you can make sure that as you're drawing your contours towards that exact point, that is also giving you that basically is what is helping you to make sure that it's the right shape. Because if you have the apex, the lightest area moved off center or moved to an area that it's not supposed to be, then you can end up with a contour that creates a shape that looks like the wrong shape. So anyways, let me quickly give a brief idea here on the curves. I won't get into all the technical details of all of this here. This is called a histogram if you want to research that. There's lots of info online. Anyways, but basically the short answer is that you want to create a curve that, and this is for the dark one, you want to create a curve that is making all of the light areas in particular darker. And you can see we actually are pulling this back up here, so it actually makes the darkest areas not get quite as dark. They are getting darker. We can see we pulled it down below. If it were right on this line, then they would be the same value as the original image. If they're above this line, then they're going to be lighter than the original. And anyway, so by pulling them down here, they are darker than the original image, but not as much as if we were to just leave the default like this. This would be the default if we didn't have that point there. So we're pulling them back up here, so we're not letting them get quite as dark. We're leaving them just a little bit lighter than they naturally would be with just this one point up here. And then this point, of course, is to pull that curve into the highlights. So that we can see that contrast. So let's take a quick look at the curve that makes everything light. And anyways, and you can see we're doing pretty much the opposite. Now we're doing this just slightly differently because the darks in this image don't follow the exact same path that the lights do. Excuse me. And so, anyways, this is just what this happened to be. Again, you have to play around with where these points are and just kind of get a feel for where you are seeing the most contour and curve within the dark areas in order to pick where these lines go. I'm doing this in Photoshop, but you can use any tool that has curves. There are a number of free ones that you can get from GIMP, some free online websites that you can upload images to and manipulate the curves on the image and download. Anyways, pretty much any tool that lets you apply curves to an image will work to do this technique. And if you have any questions, please let us know and we'd be happy to help.